So for this video, we're going to be looking at a couple of new postulates and theorems that we have. So if you recall, a postulate is a statement we accept as true without proof, so we don't have to prove those. But a theorem is any statement that you can prove. And so once you have proven a theorem, you can use it as a reason in later proofs. So with these theorems, I will be providing a proof so that we can go ahead and use them in later proofs. So this first one is a postulate, so we don't have to prove it. And this one is called a linear pair postulate. And that says if two angles form a linear pair, then they are supplementary. And this is something that we learned about in our last unit. And if you recall, that means that if I'm looking here, since angle 1 and angle 2 are a linear pair, that means they're supplementary, and supplementary just means that the measure of angle 1 plus measure of angle 2 is equal to 180. And then we have the right angle congruence theorem. So this is one that we will actually be proving, and that says that all right angles are congruent. Which, if you think about, that makes sense. Every right angle is 90 degrees. That means that every right angle is going to be congruent. Okay, let's look at a short proof. So, given that angle A and angle B form a linear pair, prove measure of angle A plus measure of angle B is equal to 180. Okay, so I'm going to first copy my given information. So I have angle A and angle B form a linear pair. And that is given. I'm also going to copy down what I'm trying to prove. So I'm trying to get to that the measure of angle A plus measure of angle B is equal to 180. Now I need to fill in that middle step and then the reason for my last step. Well, you need to look at what we're given. We're given that angle A and angle B form a linear pair. Well, what does that mean? Well, from our linear pair postulate, if two angles form a linear pair, then they are supplementary. So since angle A and angle B form a linear pair, I can then say that angle A and angle B are supplementary. And what's my reason? Well, my reason for that is the linear pair postulate. And then I say that this logically goes into my next step. Since angle A and angle B are supplementary, well, that means that the measure of angle A plus measure of angle B is equal to 180. And what's my reason for that? Well, that was my definition of supplementary, if you recall that from our previous unit. Okay, now let's write a two-column proof to prove the right angle congruence theorem. Because remember, with theorems, we have to prove it before we can use it as a reason in later proofs. So in later proofs, you don't have to go through all of these steps. We'll be able to just say, if angle 1 and angle 2 are right angles, then they're congruent. But let's go ahead and actually prove that first. So again, my first step is I want to copy down my given information. So I'm given that angle 1 and angle 2 are right angles. And I'm just going to do an angle sign for short. And so I'm given that. I'm trying to get to that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. And so now I need to fill in these steps in between. So my first step is I'm looking at what I'm given. Remember, I want to use my definitions to maybe create equations or do whatever it tells me in that definition. And I know the definition of a right angle is that means that angle 1 and angle 2 are equal to 90 degrees. So I'm going to write that. This means that the measure of angle 1 is equal to 90 degrees. Measure of angle 2 is equal to 90 degrees. My reason for that is definition of right angle. Okay, now I need to somehow get from here to that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. Well, since both of these are equal to 90, I can use my transitive property to then say that that means that measure angle 1 is equal to measure angle 2. And since measure angle 1 is equal to measure angle 2, that means that those angles are congruent. And again, that is my definition of congruence.